just today, my very dear friend from ministry, friend from career, somebody I respect very much. She's a writer, publisher, she's an editor, she's a lot of things in the literary space, and she's been doing it for over 30 years. That's a long time, that's a lifetime for someone. Her name is Mrs. Olutoyin Oladele, my very, 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 very good friend. You are very welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ever young, ever fresh, ever beautiful.
I blush.
Alright, so we're talking about your latest book. You've done so many books for people, for yourself. You've done so much in the literary space. And now you're on this, I don't know if I should call it a program, I don't know if I should call it a mission to release one book every 2 weeks or every month between now and the end of the year. That's a whole lot. That's a lot. I mean, I salute your courage, your energy, your everything. But I want us to particularly talk about the next book you're releasing in 2 weeks, you said?
Yes.
In about 2 weeks, okay. The title is No Coincidence. Tell us.
Well, no coincidence. The subtitle, When We Pray.
Okay.
Okay. The story is about it starts with a story about a young lady, and then the second part explains some of the things that happen in the story. You know, this young lady is a career-driven. Her name is Busy Protagonist. You know, she goes for a seminar on a work-related seminar somewhere outside town, and then suddenly she just keeps remembering her brother. Her brother just keeps coming to mind, and you know, she wakes up in the morning to pray normally, but then she just discusses it and ask her, you know, the way we do. So anyway, she goes for the conference and meets an old friend who happened to be a childhood friend. And they got talking, and this guy just mentions the brother again, you know, and somehow she felt, look, something is going on. I've been thinking about this. So they decided to go and pray, look for somewhere to pray during their tea break. So they found somewhere within the premises to pray. So it took time to pray, and then when they were done, they went for the rest of the seminar. But somehow in the course, I'm telling the whole story, and I shouldn't be telling the whole story.
No.
Okay. Anyhow,
They need to buy the book.
Yes, I won't tell the whole story. So, but it so turns out that at that particular point in time when they were praying, she discovered later that the brother was in an accident, involved in an accident, and just somehow a supernatural intervention. He just he doesn't lose his life. He's spared, and he just escapes with very small bruises. Meanwhile, almost every other person in those two vehicles died, with the exception of 2 people who were in ICU at that particular point in time. You know, that's why I call it no coincidence. You know, so there's some things that we feel are just that we discard. Yes, just look at it like just one of those things. But those things are important if we'll just pay attention to some of us. That's what the entire thing is talking about. And then also mentioning the fact that, well, I'm a child of God, as children of God, that there's a way that God always kind of just intervenes in our affairs, in man's affairs. I mean, God is always there. It just steps in. It's like the supernatural just steps into the natural, and so things that should have happened can be averted.
Yeah. I love the title. I love no coincidence. So one of the things is that in life there are really no coincidences. Everything happens as a result of something. It's a consequence of something.
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely.
You know, I need to mention here that Mr. Oladele writes a lot of inspirational stuff.
Right.
Things that connect us to who we really are or who we really should be. How big is it? Something that you can finish at the city.
You can finish at the city. I'm telling you, if you're like me, an avid reader, of course I know you're an avid reader. It's something you can finish at the city. You know, it's targeted towards young people, actually, young people, young adults. You know, a lot of people don't want to sit down and start reading. You know, I really don't. No patience to do that kind of thing. So you just want it, you know, straight, short and sharp. You know, so the idea is I want people to be able to remember that some of these things really matter, and that there is a God that intervenes in the affairs of men, like I said. So things like praying, You know, somebody was talking with me. It was this morning. I was chatting with this young man. And he said, I just said, he had been ill for a while, and he said, he's a Christian. And he was saying he was struggling to pray. I really haven't been able to pray. I said, look, prayer is actually just basic, you know. And I mentioned this in the book. What's prayer? Communication with God, talking to God. That's the purest, simplest form. It's just talking with God. Talking, being able to communicate with God, or having a conversation. It's not a conversation like we're talking now. I mean, it wouldn't be a conversation of there's only one talking, you know. So that's the basis of our faith. Actually, it's just having known that there is a God that rules in the affairs of men, and a God that can change things, a God that we can always run back to. Somebody outside there, somebody with outside our physical understanding, somebody who's willing to actually, you know, deliver, save, and help, and all that, you know. I explained, you know, it also, one of the other things, you know, because when we were praying, we did a lot of praying in tongues. Okay, I know a lot of people have heard about praying in tongues and all that, you know. You know, so I try to explain what that is all about, what exactly it's about, you know. And that, because sometimes you want to pray, you don't know how to pray. You don't know what to pray because you don't even know what's happening. You just know there is a burden on your heart. You know, it reminds me of a particular time. You know, I was in my office some years ago. My oldest daughter was in, I think, JS2 at the time. And so what she said, because my office wasn't far from her school, she just take a taxi and come and meet me in the office. So that particular afternoon, I was walking, and all of a sudden I just felt like there was something off, something just wasn't right. So I closed my door and asked the guy that was working with me. I didn't want to be disturbed, so I just took some time to pray. Not long after I finished, I took some time to pray until I felt lighter. So not longer after I finished praying, I just received a call. I said my daughter had been hit by a car. She was about to cross the road, and then the car hit her. My heart was in my mouth. I dashed out of my office and went straight to the school. I saw the junction where it all happened. I went to rushed out to the hospital nearby, and I looked at her. I said, Brother, are you all right? She said, yes, Mommy, I'm okay. Are you sure? Are you feeling any pain anywhere? She said, no. She'd been hit by. She was carrying a typewriter because she had what do you call this object they used to do in those days? Secretarial, whatever. So she had, the typewriter crashed. The thing scattered. The impact was so bad. The typewriter is still. I still have that typewriter in my house. One small typewriter. I would remind me when she's going to get married. She'd carry to her husband's house. And then this girl, she hit by a car. You know, they said, okay, let's watch her and all that. You know, took her home and all that. There was nothing, no bone broken. All she had was minor bruises that could have happened if she just fell down and scratched her hand, hit by a car. I mean, that's supernatural.
And that's no coincidence.
That's not a coincidence. That's supernatural.
Now, your book is a fiction book, right?
Yes, it's fiction.
So you have used the medium of fiction
Stories.
to tell a story.
Right.
You know, so there's the story part, and then there is the lesson it teaches.
Right.
Now, is it I understand fiction, okay, but sometimes people think there needs to be a separation between fiction and inspiration, like because people think that fiction, no, you're lying, so I mean, it can't be the same thing. How easy has it been for you using fiction to tell actual stories and teach actual lessons?
It's the best. Jesus told parables. He was always telling parables. You know, the thing is, because I happen to be a pastor, when I'm in church, you know, the thing is, for every pastor, when you tell a story, after the message, ask someone who go in the service, what was the title of the message? It's a story they will remember. It's a story that inevitably, I found that over and over again. And it's whether young or old, but in particular for young people. It's a story you will remember. Okay, and then when you remember the story, then you remember the lesson. But all the 9 points and 7 points and 5 points that we and yes and everything really, it's not. They do, most of the time they don't remember. But when you tell the story, there's power in the story. You can't. It just sums up the entire message. So instead of having a message or telling or teaching something for one, all you need to do is tell one story. It just encapsulates everything. So you remember, you read the story, you remember the story, you remember the message. So it comes easy for me. I found it is a very useful tool, whether young or old. I mean, storytelling. That's something we miss now. That's something from our childhood. Story, right. Tales by moonlight and all. Right.
And actually, that's critical for me because for me, I'm on a personal mission to make sure that Africa tells our own stories.
We must.
And I have seen that we have lost the connection between the stories we brought. Because that's how Africans taught their children, grandchildren. That's how they taught them lessons, that's how they taught them discipline, learned about tortoise.
And passed down history.
And that's how we passed down history. So we seem to have lost that connection. So I'm really glad that for you, you're a pastor, you're a writer, and you somehow have found a way to merge. Okay, now just before we started, you were telling me about some of your other books that you're releasing in the course of the year. Why are you releasing so many books? Like how much back to back?
You say I've been into publishing, editing for so many years. I've done hundreds and hundreds of books for other people. And the thing now, when I do your book, you pay me.
Yes.
I like money and I need money. So at the end of the day, I've piled up a lot of my own books I've been writing. And I've not done, so I have a whole collection of books as receipt. I have like 5-6 books ready for press. I have many others. I probably have maybe like 10 others at different stages of completion. And I believe that, look, if God gives you something, it's to be released, it's to be a blessing to people around you. So what's the point in having all this? I'm ashamed to say I have one book I've been writing since 1991. I agree. I pray nobody ever gets what's out. Anyway, but I know books mature sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes you have an idea and it matures. Like there was one I went back to recently, and I realized that my thinking had changed.
Yes.
Some of my values, some of the things I realized I need to present in a better way. So I know that sometimes seeds, some of these book ideas like seeds, and they mature over time. But the truth of the matter is, it matures faster when you pay attention to it.
Yes, I agree.
So because I wasn't paying that much attention to it, I was doing other things. I was doing other people's books. I was doing all that. I'm not getting any younger. And these are things, there are books that have changed my life. I've read books that have changed my perception of life, changed my worldview, impacted me solidly. Now, what if those people never released those books? So I felt, look, by the way, there's one of my books I'm releasing, it's Nothing Your Dream. I did one some years ago, Dare to Dream. Now, both are stories, that starts with stories. What I use, for some of my books, I pick scriptural stories in the Bible sometimes, and I tell the story in a new way, still keeping true to the account, but telling in a creative way, and so there's this one about birthing your dream. The funny thing is talking about me. Let me tell you one of the stories there. Say, to answer your question, why I'm doing this all at the same time. I came across an account on the internet about a Chilean woman. She was about 90 years old. She had a fall, and so she had to be taken to the hospital. And they ran tests on her. They did X-rays, and they discovered that she had I don't remember the name they called it, a calcified fetus in her womb. And the fetus had been there for over 40 years. This woman was 90 years old. It had been there for over 40 years. She probably did not know she was pregnant. And they said, it's such a rare, they said it was a very rare thing that it happens now and again. But this particular she had been carrying this fetus around for over 40 years. She did not even know anything like that. And so they just treated her. Did they do it? No surgery, nothing. They said she'd probably go to her grave with that calcified baby. unborn child inside her. And that hit me. Why go to the grave with everything that God has given to me? Why carry so much inside? All the stories, all these books, all these ideas, all this, whatever it is that God has given to us, it's supposed to bless the world, bless our generation, bless people around us. So why have so much inside and die with it? That's why some people say the grave, the cemetery is the richest place in the world. People die with things, stuff they should have released to the generation, but never did for some reason or the other. Like me, I was looking for money or fear or whatever, and all that. It's just not fair. It's not fair to the God that gave us those gifts and those ideas. It's not fair to a generation who need it. I believe very strongly that the answers to the problem, challenges of any generation is in that generation.
Yes,
Is in that generation. So probably the one book you're supposed to release will impact and change, if it is just 2-3 lives. That changes the mentality. It adds to all of us collectively. It adds to the families and the society. And so we can't just sit down and just think these things are for us. They're not for us. They're not for us. So that's why I need to do this. I just want to do this so that others can other things can also be released. So I'm constipated right now.
all right, so we need to help you release that baby.
Right. Thank you. I will appreciate. I need right.
It's so interesting because now we're all talking about
So,
this. Thank you so much for talking with us.
thank you.
We'll remain on this journey with you, so I love this and being released. But we are looking out, particularly in the next 2 weeks.
No coincidence, absolutely. Thank you for what you're doing here. This is awesome. This is awesome. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be encouraged, are going to do the same thing, release these books. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Definitely will have you back. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so let's look out for No Coincidences. When it comes out, I'll let you know. And this is one book a week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.